welcome to Agile World. You all right, Karl?
Yeah, I'm good. Glad to be back. I feel like I've had a holiday. Obviously, not actually leaving the house or anything, but a holiday from this, not from you because we talk every day. But now I'm rambling. Hello, Mark. How are you doing?
Good evening, Sabrina. Good evening, Karl. I'm very well, thank you. Still at work. This is in between my. I'm on 3 time zones at the minute. I'm on Philippine, UK, and California. So I've got a 2-hour window.
Wow. Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is: are you on an hourly rate or on a daily rate?
All of my opinions will be my own. Nothing to do with Accenture, my employer.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, I forgot.
Well, before we start, I'm going to just confirm, because Karl accused me of this. I'm not wearing my pajamas, and I'm not allowed to say the brand name, but I'm wearing those giant fleecy hoodie duvet things, just in case, because Karl accused me today of actually being in my pajamas all day. I don't do that. I do get dressed. Just wanted to cover that.
Okay. Well,
I'm pretty sure Karl's just covering himself there. Everybody else is in there.
It's just up to the waist, and then everything below is just. This is all set up in my bed, so I'm just like sitting up.
Look, I'm sure if you manage to sort of peep into people's lack of camera, I bet you that's what's happening, because I've had some senior people, oh, my camera's not working. No. Some companies now do have a policy to try and make it a bit more human, to open up the cameras, so that you can see the C-suite and the leadership and things like that. But you'll find some regular people not putting their cameras on ever. And I'm pretty sure that's because they're inappropriately dressed for a senior leadership meeting.
How well put.
So I can confirm I'm lucky. I've got a beautiful office. If anyone ever wants me to give them, I actually did a tour once, didn't I? I put it on our WhatsApp group tonight. I did a lovely tour of my beautiful office. But yeah, I have actually been caught in one of those situations where it was hot, it was the summer, and I decided to wear an office top, and then I had Daisy Dukes on underneath, and I thought no one's ever going to see it. And I was in a meeting with some very, very high ranking management, and all of a sudden I heard a big noise in the wind outside, and the window was behind me, and I instantly jumped up and ran and bent over, and whoa. Lessons learned there: you always get dressed. You never know you're in a situation where you need to jump up and move.
I think that's a new routine. I think everybody, they did a look over the shoulder, right? So how's the room looking? Wait a minute, hang on. Have I got anything offensive behind me? Right, have I got any documents? Because there's a very famous story, and it's not obviously my current employer. We have a thing within financial services called client identifying data. And somebody had been on a call and put a lot of incriminating data up on a big whiteboard. And they thought that they cleared it. They then went in with the chief operating officer on the next call. And the first thing he said was, "What's that behind you? Is that a client account number?" And what they've been doing was, because we can't work with live data, they put it up on a whiteboard and ran through the use case. So, of course, that had been broadcast to whoever they were with on the call previously, and they got fired for it because they had somebody's live data up on a whiteboard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the chief operating officer was the next call. So
I remember a story from when I worked with the same company that you're working with, where this guy had basically sent a document via email that had proposition data in it. And it wasn't the final proposition, it was the proposition matrix, which is all of the input datas and all the calculations. So basically revealing the entire methodology for putting together the proposition. And they sent it to someone inside a bank, asking them to add in their data. So they weren't even good enough to actually acquire the data, and then asked them to send it back. So they were working in Canada. They got flown into London to discuss the matter and were fired in London and then flown home again. And then they were actually
firing.
Well, the Financial Conduct Authority was engaged with as well, because actually they asked a client to reveal financial data and send it in the clear. In large corporations, you have server systems and access systems so that you actually set aside a portion of that server purely for that client for interactions. You never send anything in the clear. But the actual data they were asking for and the data they shared was a clear breach. It was a breach of Financial Conduct Authority rules. It was a breach of Bank of England rules. It was a breach of internal policies. There was so many things that they did in one instance that completely. But they were also blacklisted from working in any bank.
It's the severity of the punishment is millions of dollars. And loss of client. I mean, many years ago, you only had sort of three types of risk, right? You had operational risk, you had financial risk. Now, company facing the stock market have reputational risk as number one risk, right? And that you'll see your operational readiness teams will say to you, is there any way that this could knock the share price? Is there any way that this could knock the reputation of the company? Rather than, is the server going to go down and somebody can hack it? we want to deal with the public-facing part of the risk first, and then we'll deal with all the operational stuff. So, the face of the company now and the way that compliance and regulation is within financial services, I read an article from Forbes. Somebody missed a deadline, and not even anything, data-related. They missed a deadline for rolling out a piece of software that updated one field in a form, and it cost them $40 million just for not putting a certain field on a form that the public would use. So it's highly sensitive now around data and its usage. I mean, you guys saw what happened with GDPR, right?
Yep.
You had to know exactly what state your data was everywhere. What state is it in now? Where is it? It's here, right? It's at rest. That's fine. We're all right. Protected that. Oh, it's in the open. Right. We've got 256 encryption and that's working. Right. Magic. What about who you're sitting? Do you know what I mean? It just became that, obviously because data is financial now, it became more important in the priority of things that you were actually building. So, I've been in software for 36 years now. So it's different priorities that we have to work against, and data protection more than data is big business now, very big business.
That leads into one of our questions. How did you get into Agile? When did you first come across it? How did you come across it? What was your feelings towards it?
I was in need of Agile because the first software development methods that I was trained at university, Jackson Structured Programming, SSADM, were built into the system as waterfall methods because risk was predominant and you couldn't not go through all the steps, financial, procurement, sales. Everybody wanted a check, a gate. So every piece of software that we wrote at university had these quality, risk, audit, finances checks. So when I first joined my first software company in Glasgow, we had some big clients and everything was risk averse. And it was hellish trying to get something actually on a server working. And we never really realized that we fell into the problem of, if I said to you, Sabrina, what is it you want? You would go, well, I don't know, your technology. Why don't you go and build it and then bring it back to me? And we'd go away for 2 years and we'd come back and show you it. And you'd go, we've moved on now, right? This is useless. We've spent $20 million. And that failure, I thought there's got to be something else out there. So I found a group called RAD, who were Rapid Application. And RAD was basically throw something on a server and let somebody see it very quickly and let them criticize it. And in those early days, if you were client facing, you couldn't show them rubbish because you hadn't trained your customer or client. Hey, Sabrina, I'm going to show you something. It's going to be SHIT, but I want to show you it quickly so that I can refine it and change it. And that was new to clients in 1994, 95, right? They had always assumed your technology, you know what we need, go away and build it and bring it back. And that's why we failed for years. If I look back at the history, we've lost billions of dollars in technology with that attitude. So I found RAD, and I was looking at the .alt kind of scene in America, and they were saying, just get it on a server, man. Just show somebody what you've done as quickly as possible and get criticized for it. But then take the criticism and put it back up on a server again the next day and keep doing that. So we didn't have labels yet. You know, Snowbird was still to happen. The guys were still to get together. But RAD and XP was like developers going, we need to get it in front of people. So I then, myself and one of my best mates from university started our own software company. And this idea of getting things in front of clients became real because my friend, who's quite famous in the world of motorbikes now, at the time was a perfectionist. So I would go and sell a piece of work for £350 a day at 10 days. It would take him 20 days to get it done. So my daily rate was now £175. And I kept saying to him, get that stuff in front of that client. And we had some big clients, Oxford United, Holiday Inns in London, you know, so we were dealing with people used to, you know, quality sites. But Bruce would not just throw stuff at a server, let somebody look at it, because he wanted it to be right. But if you want it to be right, that's your assumption, not the client's view or the customer's view, right? So he would spend 6 days getting the UX right, and the customer just wanted to print out an invoice. And then I started to learn in 95, 96 that that's what it's about. Let the client tell you what their priorities are, right? Because certainly with that client, they were like, I don't care about the UX. I'm not using it as a public-facing website. I want it to do something that's down and dirty and it does functionality. So 96, RAD then went into DSDM, right? So I joined the DSDM consortium. And again, we weren't calling it Agile because it was still just iterative development. That's all we had the name for it. We didn't have a badge. But I was still at heart as a developer, cut it, show it, criticize it, you know, do it again, right? And I wanted that all the time. And my clients loved that because they were like, mate, you just got off the phone and I'm looking at a folder on a web server. I want that changed. Change that. That's got to be green, blue, yellow. Change that, right? And we were so quick at doing stuff, my daily rate went up to £700 because we were getting it done in half the time of the job that I'd actually quoted.
And the customer obviously was more appreciative of it because they were actually seeing what they were spending their money on and how it was being built and having a point of view of actually saying, I like this, I don't like this.
Great insight, Sabrina. They were so involved. We got repeat business like you wouldn't believe because they were now at the center of it. And I want to be careful about using terminology. You know, I'm a scaled Agile practitioner. You know, I work with Dave West at Scrum. I don't want to use labels that weren't around then because you've asked me about the history, right? We didn't have the terminology about customer-centric. But yeah, they loved it. And because they were involved in the process now, it wasn't handing something over to a technology company. They were driving their delivery. They were driving their product. So I actually ended up, senior leaders in business in England were phoning me up going, I've just told my mate that I built a website. It's fantastic. I'm a technology leader. Yeah, okay.
It's really interesting because I was involved in usability in those days, and information architecture. User experience didn't exist as a term of reference. So but information architecture was about the narrative, not just the pure library science stuff. And so that interface with the client about what do they want, we took stuff from, I went to art college, we took stuff from art college and said, do you mean this? And we'd like sketch it up in front of them. And we get immediate response. Now, there's now all these massive technology systems to make those sketches. But, if you can't use a paper and pen, you probably shouldn't be in computing to start with, because a lot of clients don't have, either don't have access or don't have the time. They want that. I've done some of the best stuff I've actually done in front of a client with an iPad now, by just showing them what they could have.
That's a great analogy, right? Many, many years ago, I wanted a portrait done by an artist. And I sat and they sketched it. And I didn't like it. And they changed it. And then
hang a minute, was this portrait of you sat on a pony with a sword? I'm now envisioning that.
Page, Sabrina, have you been on my Facebook page? But I think the analogy's right, Karl, that if you can sketch it on the back of an envelope and go, is that what you mean? And thankfully, you've led me into what I then began to say. Let's prototype everything, right? To clients, I would go, this is now called prototyping. I'm going to build something shit that you can have a look at, and it costs buttons. But if it gets me on a journey to where you want me, then nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? So we started doing that. Certainly, we next got a contract out to Erskine and with Compact, and they wanted a full system built because we'd started building, more and more, just not brochure websites. We were starting to build some functionality, and with Scottish Power. So now we were prototyping. And again, 98, 99, you were starting to get this conversation about, hey, just build something small, right? Mm-hmm. Just show them something small with a bit of functionality, and then get paid for that, and then build on that. So Scottish Power came to us for a proactive health system. And I won't go into it because I'll probably get sued.
No, we don't want no risks on that. No, don't do that.
It'll make us all famous, but we'll be skinting in jail. So I think I'll avoid that. But they had never had prototyping. They had never understood, do this little bit, test it, and get it working. And they wanted access as a back end, and it was crap. So we had to do a bit of legacy work up into SQL Server. But again, now I'm talking to people going prototyping. Where does that come from? Well, funny enough, most of engineering, and I went to Strathclyde Uni, which is an engineering university. They'll build something in an afternoon that turns out to be a £50 million speedboat 7 weeks later.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll sit in the pub with a tiny bit of clay or the back of an envelope. And that's what they start. So being at an engineering university, I had contacts with people who are in mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, and they went, yeah, we do that all the time. We'll build something, it's crap, and we throw it away. And I'm like, I think we should start doing that. So
the thing is, it makes sense. That was a simple example. It just makes sense.
So
I'll give a simple example here, right? We go to the beach. We see the beautiful sea in the water, and we're thinking we're going to go swimming in it. What's the first thing we do? We dip our toe in the water to see how cold it is. Then we make our decision. We do it as human beings.
So what you're saying is right with hindsight, Sabrina, but the business environment in the 90s was, we're kings of the universe. We know what we're doing. We don't need anyone to show us. And people were blowing money on really stupid ideas all over the place. They weren't dipping their toe in the ocean. They were dropping their whole divisions in it without knowing if they would float or not. And just assuming that someone would pick up the pieces, and that no one could. So I think, what I like about what you're saying is I often get people saying, oh yeah, so you do design thinking, you do this company name's process. I go, no, I use the design process. And they go, what's that? And I say, well, the earliest mention I could find of it is from the 11th century, but basically it's how humans have evolved.
I'll tell you what I put it down to now, what you've just explained, Karl, is fear of failure, mate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't, this is, to go back to your analogy, Sabrina, we didn't even want to get on the beach. Because if we committed to going on the beach and we got it wrong, you were fired, or somebody else came in and replaced you. There was no culture at all of prototype something, throw the cash away because it doesn't work, but the next thing we're going to build is going to be much better. We had no culture of that whatsoever, and everybody feared failure. So as Y2K came up, and I then joined a major high street bank, and some of the teams that worked for me were on £700 a day to change 2 digits in a piece of code. Fear of failure became ingrained in technology because we were spending billions of dollars trying to fix something that in a backward glance never happened. So we were now, kidney machines are going to fail. The banks are going to fail. Hospitals are going to go under. So nobody wanted to try anything called a prototype because, hey, shit, people are going to die because of what we've done. Didn't happen. But the culture was just follow the waterfall mentality, risk assess every movement. Every dollar needs to be checked. We now have a unit called QA that QA's QA to make sure your QA is QA'd by the QA.
But I mean,
did you say?
But that's those cultures overrule innovation, and then they themselves get overruled by innovation because challengers come along and go, that's stupid, and why are we doing that? Let's do this instead. So, the first thing that happened was, certainly with banks, was people thought, well, wait a minute, if the speed of making a transaction is based around your closeness to an internet node, let's build on top of one. And immediately all of these trading houses were wiping the floor with the banks. So I hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah, and at that time, I was very fortunate. 2 things happened in my career. And this is where I will mention Agile. Because up until then, I'd just been within DSDM. We just looked at iterative design. We just looked at iterative software development. Nobody had ever said, let's put crap out there and get it refined. We'd always just started with a design process. Let's iteratively do design. Well, some companies were taking a year to iteratively do design, and there were 4,000 software developers sat scratching their arse because they had no work. Right? And it just became, certainly I had a team of 70 people, and they were like, have we got any work to do? Well, there's a couple of bits of the website's not got the right spelling on it. Go and fix that, right? And you just got a waste of money. So everybody was looking at design, right? Because that's up there. That if we fix up there, down here is going to be perfect. Well, mate, you fixed up there. We've got nothing to do, and you're not teaching us what you're doing up there. And certainly, anybody in production or support doesn't. I mean, they've left. they've gone. They've gone home because they waited so long. So around 2000, I got asked by a high street bank that I work for. Every new project that we launched in the area that I worked in, called technical strategy, I had half my team in the business unit that were at Forrester and Gartner every year. They then put some sort of solution together and then gave it to me, and I ran it and delivered it. And everything they gave was thrown over the wall, and then we would have to redo it in a technical sense, which took another 3 months. Of course, the business are now saying to us, where's this snazzy new product that we saw at Gartner? So I got asked, can we get a better way of working? Now, this is 2000, so this is the first time I've ever heard better ways of working.
Yeah.
And I went, okay. So I got 2 analysts who were brilliant with me, and we developed a thing called the technology adoption lifecycle. How do you bring something in the front door, bash it around and get it out? And I was reading about Jeff Sutherland. And being a rugby player, I was like, somebody's named a methodology after scrums? Really? Wait a minute. Do they know how brutal scrums can be? I played in the front row most of my career. Look at the state of my face, right? What have they named it after this? And a couple of years later, after reading Jeff's book, he's never been to a rugby game in his life, right? He watched one on TV somewhere. It has the ethos, and this is the line from his book that I loved. It's the whole team driving for the line, right? Mm-hmm. And I loved that at the time. I loved when I read that, I went, that's it. Stand all of your team up, including the business, driving for the line. So I took to Scrum very early. I didn't really get right into it, but, you know, I liked the idea that no matter in rugby, right, I'm a wee short arse, but I'm hard as nails, front row player. But some of the other players were lithe and quick runners, and some of the others were great kickers. So very much the antithesis of football, there is a job for you in rugby, no matter what body shape, size, mentality you are. That's a Scrum team right there, right? I've got everybody from security, DevSecOps, DevOps, pipeline guys, DBAs, UX, back end, front end, business owners. I've got everybody. And they all have a job, right? And certainly now, I'll jump forward and go back. All of my POs, and I know this is a contentious issue within the Agile world, all of those people are just team players. There is no hierarchy in any of the teams that I put together, right? You are just another...
I've got to give you a round of applause on that. It's about time someone said that.
You are just in the delivery team, right?
Yep.
So anyway, let me go back to 2000. So 2001... I've put this piece of work into, I was going to say the name of the company, but we went on to buy We went on to buy NatWest. That's another story.
I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Someone else I've worked with.
So we were seen as a challenger bank, right? Because we relied on technology to generate benefit and value, right? And that's how I got sent down to London as a due diligence manager for the deal, to look at NatWest, find all that legacy stuff that they had, and just say, look, we can make billions of dollars. And my boss was the head of technology at the time. And I said to him, boss, there's billions of dollars of waste down there. We can easily get rid of it. So I'm now in a mindset of the manifesto's now been published, 2001. I read it. It's 17 guys who have been through the same experience. Big waterfall failures, big Prince, Prince 2. I put on LinkedIn this morning while I was researching myself, which is a very unusual thing to do, research yourself. Try it. It's quite amusing.
I don't think I want to look at my old CVs just to see what garbage I wrote about myself.
So it was on that down in Bournemouth. I was 5 days in Bournemouth with QA, who had a technology training company for the bank. And, just even talking about software delivery put me to sleep. I was like, and this is the methodology? What? Holy shit, this is awful. So being RAD and XP and DSDM, in my mind, my work wouldn't go for anything that was rapid application. They wouldn't go anywhere near it because money has risk, risk needs quality, quality needs audit, audit needs checking, right? So 2001, the manifesto comes out. I read it. It's like, you know, Christ has come off, you know, the mountain and went, look, I've got something different. You need to read this. So unfortunately, I tell the bank this. We should be doing that. They went, goodbye. I went, oh, okay.
That's because you became the risk.
Yeah. Not ready for that then. Okay. Because the idea, and this is what I got shot for, right? I didn't get fired. I got asked to leave.
Okay. How do you want to sugarcoat that?
It works out differently with the money. Okay, carry on.
The problem was that I let my thinking out to some very senior business people.
Yeah.
And my thought was that technology should be a profit center. And everybody went, what do you mean by that? I said, well, they should give us $10 million. We should make it 15. They get 3 back and we keep 2. Because we're enabling the business, right?
Yeah.
No,
but there's a problem with that is that when you tell business people that, they go, wait a minute, we need to now qualify every stupid idea we send to technology. And that means it will expose the fact that we have no idea what we're doing.
Correct. And that really is important, that part, Karl. And I'll come back to that. But here's what actually happened. Technology went, you stop telling them that we'll accept a business case and deliver. Stop that. We're quite happy getting $50-60 million a year, and then we go and spend it.
Yeah.
And we have no reason to put an ROI on that because it pays for all this big estate, right? It pays for 95 DBAs when we're using Access. Are you shitting me? Right? Really? You've got 25 front-end developers. You've got one website, mate, with 2 pages on it, right? So that was the problem. It wasn't the business, but you're right, Karl. The business, and certainly now what I adopt is a front door process. I don't let anybody come in unless they've got sponsorship at a senior level and a budget.
Yeah.
Why would you? Because that just means we're going to play wooden dollars on a big organization. We're going to play wooden dollars. Nobody's got any impetus to deliver quickly, rapidly, value. So, yeah, I got Mark, stop that heretical stuff.
Well, you're creating unplanned work, and I've seen entire divisions, like 99% of the work is unplanned work. And it's all like, yeah, we had this conversation. We thought it'd be a good idea to try. Well, how much have you spent? Oh, 20 million. Have you got a bottomless pit? You know, just give me the money if you want to throw away money like that. But I've seen divisions that spent $500 million on a POC. I'm going, what? You know, you could have major impact upon the bank and the lives of staff by actually properly managing your finances.
So we're going to get to that. I promise you. I promise you, because it's a big debate within the Agile community right now. And it might be the last thing we talk about because we're going to come to it. So I get asked to leave and I go back and set up another software company myself. So I'm now back close to clients that I really enjoy, right? And I'm back in that what's now being termed as an agile mentality. I'm quick. I'm, building a small team. Whatever the client says on a Tuesday, it's there on a Monday morning, a Wednesday morning. And I'm back in that rhythm again. I love it. I love it. And I love it so much. And I've made a few quid from buying the big bank because I had a lot of shares. I retrained as a chef. And I didn't retrain as a chef straight away. I was a dishwasher for 2 years in a Jasper Conran restaurant in Glasgow. And that set me on the road to becoming a head chef. And I learned that being a chef is all about waste removal. immediate customer feedback. You put something in front of a client, customer, and it's crap, they'll tell you because they're paying $25 for a meal, right? I actually tied that back to my agile mentality. I was like, chefs are the most agile people. Chef, do you see that? You see that salad that you're putting together? It's niçoise, right? They don't like anchovies. No problem. Anchovies out. Something else in. Hang on, that's agile, right? And I honestly, for 10 years as a chef, was the most agile I've ever been in my life, because somebody could come in and go, chef, listen, I'm not feeling like this tonight, but I like that part of the meal. Could you take that out and give me that as a substitute? I'm like, that's agile software delivery right there.
Yeah. So my analogy is special forces. So the special forces have a battle plan. They have the skills and training they've been provided, but once they're in the battle, they must adapt. And the immediate feedback loop is not to die.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of. Whereas, you know, I remember years ago going on to this base in Scotland, and this is another immediate feedback loop, which I always think about whenever I get given a deadline. And I went on to this RAF base, and inside that there was an American base, and inside that there was another American base. And as I was walking between one building and another with this teenager holding a machine gun guiding me around, there's this red hashing on the road on the pavement. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "That's a deadline." I said, "What happens if I cross it?" He said, "Someone shoots you dead because there's snipers everywhere." So it's perspective, and that was a life site behavior.
Yeah.
And you know, we get very comfortable about the processes we have and miss the point of opportunity. Processes are more sort of guide rails to enable us to get to the point of delivering something that works. Or at least that's. I keep on thinking was it the Barbosa statements from Pirates of the Caribbean?
Oh, we did this the other night.
We did this the other night. It said the code is more sort of guidelines than rules.
Oh yeah. But the parlay stuff.
You just jumped on my opportunity. I was just about to ask what to do with my ribs tonight.
Right,
I've got ribs. Right. So here we go. Question. What? I got ribs in a slow cooker with barbecue sauce, but it's quite runny and it's been in there since lunchtime. What do I need to do now to make them like proper barbecue ribs?
Is it a homemade sauce or a jar of sauce?
Out of a jar. I've got no time.
Right. So if it's too runny,
yep,
get a frying pan.
Yep.
Some butter. Gently melt the butter.
Yep.
Put some flour in it. A little bit at a time.
Yeah.
It thickens up. It's called a roux.
Yeah.
A roux.
A roux. R-O-U-X.
This is the binding basis of all sauces.
And then pour your liquid into your roux. Whisk it. And it'll gently cook thicker and thicker and thicker, and it'll begin to coat the ribs.
Thank you. I will send you a picture later.
And if you do them again, marinate them for 6 hours beforehand before you put them on in a different flavor from the sauce, because you want to create a flavor array or a different a juxtaposition of flavors. Ribs is my favorite thing on the planet.
I was talking to you at lunchtime. You could have told me then.
Well, you didn't ask for advice. I don't. I mean, I don't give advice just like I'm talking to someone and say, "Have you thought about doing this instead of what you're doing already?" I mean, that's a bit presumptuous.
Oh.
Sorry, Mark. Carry on. So
sorry. So you were a chef. How long were you a chef for?
13 years.
13 years.
Yeah,
because that is a change in career. Because I get some people when they look at my CV, I get a bit of funny looks, because obviously I was a networks engineer. I went from a PA to a networks engineer, and then in delivery, and the delivery side made sense, and then to an agile consultant. But to go from what you did to a chef. That is, what was the reason behind it?
Well, my family historically have had hotels in the west coast of Scotland. So as a child, I grew up with my grandmother in the kitchen. And I'd always been a cook. I'd always been quite an independent person. So I always cooked for myself. But I'd never done it professionally. And I thought, that's a big challenge. I've been very successful with the Edinburgh Bank. That's not the one sponsored by the Queen. And I'd made a few quid. So why not? You know, why not? And I've since found that having spent all that time and then becoming a head chef is just like running your own business. And running your own business is very much like running your own department within a big delivery shop. Because you bring in resources, you have them scaled up, you know what the menu is, it changes every season, you've got to have them on the ball. A supplier might go down, you have to rejig the menu, they have to be ready to produce it. You have immediate feedback because the customer will either pay you or not pay you. And at the end of the night, if you've not used those ingredients properly in a value-based sense, you've lost money. And you find that out every night. So as much as it might seem like two different careers, they both have such complementing skills that when I went and did my MBA and I was looking to go, because that was part of my plan, I'd become a head chef. I worked at a De Vere's in Norfolk. I was running, 320 covers a night, full kitchen. I was the head chef of a particular part. I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve. But I was dirt poor because finance, technology, you make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Head chef, you make jack shit. So I'd been satisfied on a personal level. Financially, the silver was sold and, I had to go and eat. So I'm very lucky to have the University of East Anglia on my doorstep and realised that if I fronted up to the city and said, hey, do you remember me from 15 years ago? I used to be very successful in software project development for a bank. I had in my mind that they'd go, sorry, old man, but we talk a completely different job now. We talk a completely different language. So I had to find a qualification that would make me relevant. So I had a chat with the UEA. I met a great guy called Andy Vassallo, who I credit. And he said, come and learn it with us, mate. And I got 13 professors who made me relevant in finance, technology, forecasting, all the real business things that if I went to a city firm in 2018, they wouldn't laugh me out the door, right?
Yeah.
So I'm now still an Agilist. I'm still up to date because I'm so enthusiastic about it. I turn up and again, I'm very fortunate. I'm at an event with 120 people and I'm talking to a brilliant lady who, again, I credit, Zara Bartolomei. And we spend 20 minutes talking about technology and an initiative that's important to her called Tech for Good. And she doesn't tell me anything about it apart from she's a technologist and she loves it. We shoot the breeze for 20 minutes. We have a lot in common. And then she gets up on the stage and is introduced as UK and Ireland's head of technology for Accenture.
Right.
So I'm basically sat there going, oh, what have I done? What have I done? She'll think I'm a nut, right? However, because we were both technology nuts, I got an opportunity with Accenture. And I had the longest job interview in history. It was 3 months. But they gave me a chance. They didn't laugh in my face. Because what I'd found is that technology may have changed, but people haven't.
No, it's true.
I am still talking about the same issues that I talked about in 1994 when I joined my first software company, right? So I just had to learn the new technology words for things. And thankfully, because I'm a true Agilist at heart, Agile was the method that was now being talked about, I'm like, I was talking about that 30 years ago. Oh, excellent. And do you know what I put it almost like? Do you know when you do French at school and then suddenly find yourself in France? You're like, oh, mate, look, I've got a French O-level. This is going to come in so handy. And that's what it felt like, because people were now talking about, let's not do shit first. Let's do the important stuff first in such a quick time that they're going to overpay for it and think we're amazing. Oh, mate, I'm in, right? And again, fortunate, I now become one of the leading experts in an organization of 550,000 people that they're coming to me. And I'm like, because what has happened to me is that skill has taken 30 years to come back into fashion right enough, but hey, I'll take it when I can.
Well, you took a while, but you arrived at the right time. You were cooked well enough.
Exactly. But I'm now in a position where I'm a very unusual animal within our technology world. I know the theory, but I've made millions of dollars for companies doing it, right? And I know in the Agile community, we do have some people that they want to protect the vocabulary, and they want to protect the dictionary of terms, and they want to protect the manifesto and the Scrum guide. I get it. I get their passion for it, and I have it myself. But I'm also keen that business understand why we do this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And my biggest conversation was the chief executive recently of again, I'll try and not drop names because he's on my LinkedIn. He might be listening, but he, I hope he is listening. He knew the benefit of Agile to the business. And we had one phrase that sums it up for me. They went about their business and we enabled it.
Yes.
Do you know, we did all the
yes.
shit that they don't have to do so that they can build better revenue streams. They can build better value streams. They can make more money, because then that goes back into technology and then we enable all over again.
Yep.
Now, I get why some of our brothers and sisters are like, we are true Agilists. You're money-making sap, or however the terminology goes. But we can be together, right? You can be a business and technology person.
So I think there's lots of different clients in the world and different values that they have. Some companies just want to make the bucks and they want to have a good relationship with their customers and they just want things to work and they really don't care about technology. And then some clients are technologists and they want to dig through every last detail. And I think we need to let our clients be who they are rather than tell them they must all prescribe to the same faith in exactly the same way.
Yeah, and Karl, this is coming to a head now from a lot of the posts that you see in the Agile world, right? We have to let everything, whatever it is, whatever name or badge or way you go about things, let's accept everything, right? And Scott, when he opened up the festival, right, he mentioned a period of time that I thought had gone, and he called it the Agile Wars, right? And I can see that raising its head. So I stick in my engagements now with my clients, right? And I love Daniel Mertz for this. And he is trying to make it a movement, and I love this. But I stick to three simple things. People first, empirical value, continuous improvement. Now, whether you want to put a company name on that or a methodology name on that, I stick to that. Because if I involve the people from day one, I'll be successful. If I can show true value, and if that has to be in a return on investment business benefits case, I will. I'll show it. Yeah. I'll show the business that I made them money.
Yeah.
My team made you money. I either cut costs, generated new revenue, or squeezed some revenue out of an existing stream, right? We did that because, and this is what's going to go back, you're now seeing it bubble, right? I made a joke that has now kind of spiraled out of control. Why don't delivery teams share in the business benefits?
Good one.
Because if the business give me $10 million and I make 25, I'll give them 10 and my delivery team keep 5. Because they're generating the value. They should share in it. Now, where that comes from is when I was a head chef, if I had a target from my boss, 66% GP, right? That means whatever raw materials I bring in, I make 66% profit on it. If I make 68%, I give that back to my chefs and my dishwashers.
Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, once I put that into a kitchen, my chefs were coming to me going, Chef, listen, we got this over-ordered. I think I can make a special out of this, and it'll probably make us another 150 quid on the day. I'm like, go and do it. I now have software developers, testers, whatever, with the same mentality. They'll come to me, testers, about 2 days ago. They came as a group and said, Mark, we were looking at the way we're doing this. We're going to change it. Is that all right? I went, does it generate more value? Yeah. Then why are you asking me? You know the answer, right? Because the people who are delivering the value should own part of that value, not just the salary, right? Anybody that tells me that salary's enough, while you're making a piece of software that generates $10 million and you're on 75K, no thank you, right? I'll have part of the value. Keep your salary. I'll take part of the value that I've just generated.
This is where software developers should become more like actors. You know, take a piece of the pie, because, you know, I know, you know, there are some people that are happy to drop their code and walk away, but I know a lot of developers who will work day and night to make the most beautiful thing that can be made, and no one apart from them can see it. And it's just like the difference between sort of Richard Burton and some unnamed actor in the background. And I just, you know, they would never get the position that they should be in terms of recognition or value, but they do it because they love doing it. And it's kind of, I find that kind of sad inside, because, you know, because they're not necessarily highly vocal or good at communication skills, they don't push themselves forward into leadership roles. And in fact, lots of times they don't want them, because actually they like doing what they're doing. So this goes back to, again, the corporate culture. To do well in a corporation, you have to be a manager. Well, why? Why can't you just be the best at a certain skill set and deliver that on a constant basis for an organization?
Let me give you a great experience of mine. We were writing a new payroll system, and this one lead developer, he was, you know, getting on in years, but he was all about the software. And every meeting, it was, yeah, I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet. And I took him aside. I said, look, you're holding up a whole team. He said, look, give me another day, just another day. Sure enough, we did a demonstration. Everything worked perfectly. I said, look, that's a great job, but you got to try and get it quicker. I said, what was holding you up? He went, Windows wasn't right, so I rewrote Windows. I went, what? And he goes, yeah, everything that I was using from VB6, it wasn't right. So I rewrote the version of Windows that I've got so that our application would work better. I'm like, how much dedication is that, right? You cannot coach that. You cannot train that. That is true dedication to being the best that you can. And I think that highlights your point, right? And that, and just to tie it back to what I said, should get a reward of the value for that.
Absolutely.
Not a salary, right? A salary, they could be sitting next to somebody who's phoning the job in. Not fair. If they put that dedication and that work into that product, they get the proper reward for it. So
in the transformation model I used, and I didn't put it in my book because I think this is something that needs to be emergent from the company. You may not have these strands of people who are so dedicated, so you can't enforce a model on everyone. But the ones that I like is where we go back to the master and apprenticeship model, that originally existed around the guilds. And the purposes of guilds was to elevate. It was also to control. But, you know, the head of the guild wasn't a political appointment. They didn't get there because they knew someone who was a guild master before. They didn't get there because of their social network. They didn't get there because they'd hung around long enough. They were the best person at the skill set in the entire organization, and they could prove it.
Do you know what you remind me of? Do you know in Iceland, you cannot take a political position unless you've been in the industry that you're representing? So the finance minister has been in finance, the fishery minister has been in fishing, and the health minister was a doctor. And I love that. I love that.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's you get the context. I mean, you can have more than one career, as you have, Mark, and I've certainly had multiple different careers. And so I've got multiple perspectives. But if I don't have the right points of reference, how can I possibly understand the situations as they arise?
Exactly. And so to sort of get to where I am now, concerning Agile, I love that we've got different flavors. I love, because that just gives us more tools in the toolbox, right?
Yeah.
I'm not for picking one over the other. I am agnostic. I turn up at the client and I go, what's the problem? And then I'll reach in my bag and I'll pick something out that fits the problem. I love the way that we're saying to each other, let's not impose stuff on people, right? Let's get the people who are affected by change to want that change, to pull that change and not push. And I like the movement that's coming around Daniel and his team and ethos of people first. I like that. The empirical value, that's a contentious point, right? Because metrics and measurement is a dirty word for people. Certainly, certain members of our community just do not value metrics whatsoever. They see velocity as a bad word. They see a measurement of their output as wrong. And I get it. I get why they don't want that. However, I'm on the positive. I want to shout my successes. I want you to measure how good I am. I want you to see how much my team's value is handing back to the business. Because I'll tell you what, if I can metric it that I'm making you more money than you're paying me, I'm asking for a raise at the end of this sprint. Trust me.
Yeah.
Right? Because I have something to come and beat you with. My team just handed you $10 million. You gave us $75,000 in salary. I want a bit more.
Yeah.
Right? So if I don't have metrics and I don't have that in place, I can't build my own team and saying we can share in the value. I'm not saying it has to be a financial carrot. You know, that's not what most people, and to come back to your point, most people are in software development because they are artistic, right? As much as my first degree was a Bachelor of Science, everybody who's ever written a piece of code has an artistic bent about them, right? Yeah. They really do. So I think that they would value themselves by seeing that they were part of the whole process, not this you're just a wee sausage factory that churns out code, right? Or your DevOps and you build a box, or your security and you make we're all right, and your data and you make sure that lake's okay. They would see that the business beginning to end, they share in. And then when those business benefits are realized after a lessons learned, and it goes, great project, here's $1 million to go and spend. So, Sabrina, you want to wrap up? Yeah.
Yeah, on that note, we're running over time.
I want you back again.
I was going to say, it feels like we require a part 2. So we need you back again. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time with us tonight. And we will see you again. And I hope everyone actually enjoys the session, because this is an interesting one.
I look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Karl. Thank you, Sabrina.
Bye.